These are game ratings in South Korea. They have pretty much the same purposes with ESRB and PEGI's ratings. Green means suitable for all ages, blue for 12 and up, yellow for 15 and up, and red for, well, obviously not suitable for 18 and under. And they have same features too, just like how they look similar. Or do they? After seeing some outrageous decisions made by Korean Game Rating Board, I want to know how a game gets rated in this country, how a single game can get 3 different ratings at the same time in a single country, how those ratings all got changed to 19 plus, only to get reversed back to 15 plus after months. And it turns out this game rating and administration committee has more power than just as a committee. We'll start by tracing down events where 3 different ratings happened to one game. It's not just any game, it was critically acclaimed that it was nominated for Game of the Year in 2024. That game is Balatro. Believe it or not, this one game had 3 different game ratings at the same time. On Android, it was rated all. For iOS, it was 12 plus. But on consoles like Nintendo Switch and PlayStation, it was 19 plus. Yeah, sounds about right. Your favorite car game is suitable for all ages on your Samsung Galaxy, but on your console, it's legally adults only. This rating nonsense continued to confuse people until January 2025 when a Korean YouTuber pointed out in a video. The YouTuber Kim Sung-hwa's G Encyclopedia broke it down, showing the rating errors across the platforms and questioning how this couldn't happen. The video went viral quickly in Korea. It was a successful point out. Surely the game rating committee would fix the 19 plus rating to something lower, right? Well, the system responded in the most hideous way. Within 2 weeks the video was posted, every single store pages changed Balatro's rating to 19 plus in Korea. Matter of fact, it even hit the press. No updates were given from the dev, and honestly, I doubt the committee ever informed the dev or the publisher about the new rating. It gets even worse. Apple pulled the game entirely from the App Store in Korea. It just disappeared overnight, and if you search for it afterward, all you find were these knockoff versions, which are frankly still rated all. Let us get this straight. This whole thing took up after a YouTuber called out the inconsistency. The committee didn't even bother to check or fix the rating issue themselves, and yet they took a nasty approach by raising the rating. It's like they were spying on gaming communities to find what games they could ban just for the sake of screwing gamers. Anyways, there's not just one, but 2 hard-to-believe events happen we need to understand. First, how the ratings across the platforms were so inconsistent. Second, how Balatro ended up being considered unsafe for anyone under 18 in Korea. Now this whole thing can be understood when we learn how game ratings actually works here, and I will explain it to you one by one. Let's start with why even getting a rating matters. Because selling a game that's not rated in Korea is illegal. In Korea, every game that's sold, especially in physical forms, need to be rated by GRAC, the Game Rating and Administration Committee. It's not a government branch, but its decisions are backed by law, which means if your game isn't rated, you legally can sell it here. And to apply, devs or publishers have to submit a full request, a detailed form, a playable build, any demo videos showing any scenes that could affect the rating, distribution plans, and of course, a fee. Once GRAC reviews the materials and issues a classification, that rating stays valid unless the game changes significantly. You also have to display the rating and explanation on your packaging, ads, and inside the game. And let's say that your game gets a 19 plus rating in Korea. Even if it looks similar to other countries' rating marks, this one has more power than anywhere else. This 19 plus rating in Korea legally categorizes the game as a 청소년 유해 매체물 or media product harmful to youth. This means your game can be sold only after buyer verifies their ID, just like when buying alcohol or cigarettes. Violations are punishable by law. Now that gives us a question. How did the game have 3 different ratings when they were all issued by a single committee? Cause they did not cross-check it. The reason behind this loophole is the self-rating system. Digital platforms like the Google Play Store, Apple App Store, Nintendo eShop, Microsoft Store, and PlayStation Store can rate their own games using automated systems. Only when the content seems likely to need a 19 plus rating or includes gambling-like elements, then the GRC will step in and do a manual review. It's all to prevent game ratings taking too long when a game gets released or anytime it gets updated. But a case like this shows that GRAC did not even care to step in to fix the inconsistency until a YouTuber pointed it out. That's how a single game ended up with 3 different ratings in the same country until they all blipped to 19+. Now let's go back to the point where this innocent card game got a 19+ rating. The reason for this rating is, of course, simulated gambling. Just few months before the rating inconsistency blew up, the committee already held an internal meeting to give Balatro an official 19+ classification for its Xbox and PlayStation releases. Thanks to them for releasing every minute of their rating discussion, we can see what they really thought about the game. The use of poker rules in the deck building process constitutes an imitation of gambling behavior. However, since the level of gambling simulation and inducement is limited, and such imitation appears only in part of the game with some player participation, it is judged as a restricted simulation of gambling behavior. Although the rewards are not classic payouts, if the strengthening currency rewarded can be seen as a form of return, it could still be considered a restricted gambling simulation. Most similar precedents involve attacking characters, but this game transforms poker rules into an overall gambling-like system. Voting and rating decision: 2 votes for 15+, 4 votes for restricted to adults. Final rating: restricted to adults. Well, yeah, realistic gambling simulation, right? Just so you know, this game allows you to burn the deck, dupe cards to make illegal hands, have too many cards in the deck, or even summon a very loud tornado to the table. At this rate, if Solitaire had come out just now, they would have rated 19+ as well, just because it resembles real-life gambling. Seems like the GRAC has some kind of trauma regarding gambling in games, and it turns out they do. We're going to go back in the timeline to the late 2004 when StarCraft was still a massive hit in Korea. From young students to adults, almost everyone played it, and it grew along with the rise of PC cafes. Fewer and fewer people went to the arcades, but then an arcade game with flashy sea creatures and slot-style reels appeared. It was called Sea Story. It looked harmless, but it was literally a gambling machine inside. The machines were inspired by Japanese pachinko machines, and players could win gift cards that were then exchanged for cash. This acted as a perfect money laundering method for organized crime. The machines spread everywhere, like literally everywhere. It was not hard to find an arcade dedicated to Sea Story. Starting from 48 registered arcades in 2004, it blew up to nearly 800 in mid-2006. Others lined up, lost money, and it became a serious social issue. In the end, the scandal broke. A whole lot of corruption and regulatory failure surfaced. The Korean Media Rating Board, which had been rating all games and movies and still rates movies today, was at the center of this scandal. Like a board member, destroyed evidence by deleting his rating documents and resigned from the rating board just to become an executive for the Sea Story arcade manufacturer. Another rating board was doing business together with the Sea Story arcade. One Sea Story related business lobbied the KMRB with over $3 million at the time. As a result, the KMRB lost its authority over rating games. Instead, the GRC was formed to take control and avoid any repeat of the Sea Story disaster. Well, it doesn't mean that they're doing a perfect job since then, but Korea's approach to gambling in games had always been extremely cautious. Even just a hint of gambling, whether it's purely visual or thematic, is treated with serious measures. Now, all of that happened around 2006, and every single game that had gambling themes was affected. Games in the modern era like GTA Online and Star Wars Outlaws are affected by these gambling themed restrictions, but we're not going to focus on them today. We're going to take a look at some of the Nintendo DS classics and compare the Korean releases with the versions released in the rest of the world to find the differences. We'll see how these strict policies affected games when they were first adapted. The first game we'll observe is Mario Party DS. This is a perfect example of just how far this can go. In the global versions, there's a map called Bowser's Pinball Machine, which features a slot machine and a roulette that reward coins, which can be used to buy a star if you win. But in the Korean version, the coin slot machine was replaced with a timing-based minigame. The roulette also got replaced with a whack-a-mole game. Sure, maybe betting multipliers are too close to real gambling for the rating board, but this is still a kids game with no actual money rewards. And it didn't stop there. Minigames like Shuffleboard Showdown and Chips and Dips, which were simply themed around gambling items, were completely cut from the Korean release. Now here's what I think happened. The game launched in Korea about 6 months later than in other regions. That delay might mean that Nintendo submitted the unedited version in Korea, got hit with a rejection, and decided to edit it just to get an all ages rating. The second and third game we'll take a look at are Super Mario 64 DS and New Super Mario Bros. What do they have in common? They're both amazing games, and they have banger minigames, including Luigi's Poker. Even though it's a simplified version with symbols, it still uses the rules of poker. Surely they both got removed in the Korean version, right? No. One was removed, and the other one survived. Super Mario 64 DS had always unlockable minigames removed, but New Super Mario Bros. Had them intact. We can find a clue as to why one game passed the rating board and the other one didn't by looking at the release dates. New Super Mario Bros. Was released in March 2007, and Super Mario 64 DS was released in July 2007 in Korea. Considering that GRAC was established in October 2006, and the rating mark used on New Super Mario Bros. Is from the KMRB, we can see that it barely missed the no gambling policy strike. But what happens if you don't cut anything today? That's what happened with 51 worldwide games. It includes Blackjack, Texas Hold'em, Hanafuda, all fully intact in the Korean release. And of course, it got hit with a 19+ rating. We can see the pattern now. If it even feels like gambling, when the gameplay itself is not remotely related to gambling, that's enough to trigger the Korean rating board. So, gaming in Korea seems to be doomed, right? I mean, it's a country that bans its people from gambling in casinos overseas, but banning even remote gambling themes in games? Fortunately, good changes are happening. After the YouTuber G Encyclopedia pointed out the rating inconsistency, he also filed a formal petition to the GRC, asking for a withdrawal and re-evaluation of the 19+ rating assigned to Balatro. In fact, this was done in cooperation with the Korean Game User Association, and together, they filed a constitutional complaint challenging the Game Industry Promotion Act, the law that governs how games are rated. The campaign was joined by over 200,000 participants, and believe it or not, GRC responded. Following a round of petition reviews and 2 consultations with external experts, the committee agreed to reevaluate Balatro. With that, the game was officially reclassified as 15+. That's especially meaningful because no other game had been downgraded to a lower rating before this. The change did not stop from there. GRAC has started implementing internal reforms. Since a new chairperson took office, the committee has created a new roadmap for improving transparency, increasing cooperation with private organizations, and relaxing outdated requirements. Things like need to report every minor update or tiny text fix. And honestly, I could not be happier to see positive changes in game ratings in this country after seeing multiple controversies over the last few decades that are too broad to show in this single video. While the system is still not perfect and has many issues yet to be resolved, I hope to see some more meaningful and lasting changes in the future. Well, I hope you enjoyed this topic as much as I did. But if you know any of other controversies regarding game ratings in Korea or other countries, please do let me know in the comment. I would love to know what else is out there, and we will come back to the game rating incidents in Korea in the future for sure. But until then, this is Kim Setup from Korea, and wish you all the best.